So I've got my little center punch right there, and then we'll take and drill our 2-inch hole. Definitely, definitely pays to have good tools, because I went through one layer, went through 2-layer, went through, there was a little bit of a 3rd layer, I guess it's still in the bumper somewhere, and then went through 4th layer to get all the way through there. Now, what I was saying, right where that dent is, see, that's one of the bumper bolts right there. So, but right here it was open. Had to cut just a hair off of that, but it worked. And we will mark where we need the 4 holes, and we'll drill those holes, and we'll bolt them in. Maybe kind of hard to do, so I had bought some bolts with nuts. I may take those back and just do some self-tapping screws, or some or sheet metal screws, something to where I don't have to get into the backside to get to it, because I can't really get to those. So we'll just put some self-tapping or sheet metal in, and should be good. And I may get a pry bar or something and see if I can get right in there and pry out and push this dent out a little bit. I don't know if I can, but might be able to. Alright, so I kind of taped the wire up nice. Still got pulled out, because once I get this back in there, I got to tighten these screws and stuff on this thing, and then put it in there, because I can't get to it once it's in there. So you can find a wiring diagram for these things online, but I'm going to go ahead and wire it up. I didn't use the white ground that came with the trailer wiring harness, since I've got a wire for my trailer brakes. I ran a heavier ground wire, same color, but I know which one's which because I stripped the power wire. So I'll hook that one up for the trailer brake wire, and then I'll strip this one and hook it up for the ground. So anyway, and then I'll hook the rest of these up. I'll slip it back up in here, and then we'll mount this thing in there. And there's my other end of my ground. I'll need to put a terminal on it and find a place on the frame to ground it. And we're about out of time today. Got a birthday party to go to, so we'll get this plug in there, and then that'll get the lights working, and then we'll have to do the wiring for the brake controller probably tomorrow. Everything's all back together, wired up, so we'll just push that in there, and I drilled some holes, and we'll put some screws in it. Oh, by the way, I did push this out a little bit more. It's not didn't in as bad as it was. There it is. Let's move this stuff off. Not bad. If you look underneath, see it right there. So we got to do something with this ground wire, and we'll tie wrap some of these other wires. But I got to go in and get cleaned up, so I'm just gonna tie wrap this up somewhere and tie wrap that excess, tie wrap it up really good, and go get cleaned up. Alright, so our next step, I've got that wire under there, 12 gauge wire that goes to the trailer plug in the back for the trailer brakes. So we need to route it up through there, and you can see the brake lines come up right through there. So I'm going to wrap that wire in some of this plastic wire covering, and we're going to bring up the wire and tie wrap that coating. I just accidentally hit my remote. It's telling me my door's open. Anyway, we're going to tie wrap that wire to the brake line to keep it up away from the engine. It'll keep it up nice and tight to the inner fender well. we'll bring it up all the way to probably right here, and then it's going to cut over and go in to that grommet right there. Cut away the tape a little bit so that I can get to the rubber part of the grommet. And we're going to squeeze it and a power wire. So we got to put 2 wires to that rubber grommet, and then we'll tape it back up. We're going to tie on our power wire. I was taking a look here. Thought about tying it on right here. We're going to go ahead and just tie it on right here at the battery. And we'll put that wire coating stuff and run it back here and around and through the dash, through up under the dash, where we will mount our brake controller right here. And I'm sure they make a universal plug for this thing, plugs into that, but we're just gonna cut these off and crimp on some, crimp on the longer wires. So anyway, we've got battery wire. Red is stoplight, white is the ground, and blue goes to the trailer brakes. So pretty simple setup. And we need to mount one of these. This is a 20 amp self-resetting breaker. Mount that on the firewall, and that goes in the you can use a fuse too, but I like to use these little breakers because they'll reset themselves. So if you don't have to worry about replacing the fuse on your trailer brakes. And they say, there's battery side, which is the copper side or brass, whatever, and then you got your auxiliary side. So battery feed there, and then this wire will go into the up under the dash. Probably mount it right there. It's kind of up out of the way. So anyway, let's get that done. So I've got that mounted, and I've got my 2 wires through there. Before you try to get your wires through the grommet like that, make sure you cut the tape that's wrapped around the grommet, because it holds the grommet tight so it won't expand. So I had to cut the tape away, and that allowed the grommet to, it's rubber, so it'll open up more. With tape on it, it wouldn't open up anymore. So I was able to get the wires through. And see, this is the one that goes to the brake thing. It's covered in the little sheath. And then this one will come right up to there. We'll put some of that stuff on it too. And then this one will go over to the battery. And then you can see where they came out under here. We will route these over. I marked the power one with a line, so I marked it all over with a marker, so I'll be able to find that. Took a little piece of real stiff wire and taped that on to help guide it in. Just be careful, not to force it too hard. You don't want to cut any of the wires that are in that grommet. So you just kind of go easy and a little at a time, checking the inside, make sure you're not already poking through. So got it through. I think the next step is I'll route these up out of the way, up under the dash. And I think then I'll go ahead and mount my bracket over here for the brake controller. And then I need to start getting my test light and finding which wire I need to tie into for the brake light switch to activate the brake controller. So when I find that wire, and when I get the thing mounted, we'll continue there and start hooking all these wires up.